attention and so busy they can't see straight. Calendar all jammed up with all kinds of stuff that's sapping your strength and sapping your energy, and you never take time to notice that you aren't gaining any ground. In fact, you are stuck basically in the same place year after year, day after day, moment after moment, going through the same thing, just busy, 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 busy. You might as well be lazy because you haven't gained any ground. That means that for all of your effort, it has been impotent. Impotent. It's an odd word to use here. It's the one that the text uses. It's the opposite of potency. Impotent. Impotent, when you talk about a man being impotent, it means that he has everything to work with, but it don't work. There's nothing biologically wrong with him. There's nothing to be stitched on or sewed up or fixed. It's just ineffective. You'll be shocked at the people in here that are all dressed up but totally ineffective. You'd be shocked at the people who are ineffective, and ineffective is more than being broke. You can be rich and be ineffective. You can be a mother and be ineffective. You had the kids, but it's not working. You got the man, but you can't keep him. You can get the job, but you never stay on the job. You start the business, but you go out of business, and sooner or later, you got to humble down and say, God, why doesn't this work? And you're not jealous, and you're not arrogant, and you're not proud, and you're not beside yourself, but you gotta admit, when you've had years of impotency and you see other people going on with their life and on with their relationships and on with their career and on with their stuff, it's not that you get jealous, but you do have to ask yourself, why not me? And we were taught not to ask any questions. I was. They taught me not to ask no questions. They said, don't ask God anything. Don't ask him no questions. But my question to them is, if I can't ask any questions, how can I learn? Must I dance and shout and skip and holler and pay my tithes and give my offerings and just keep my mouth shut and not wonder after all of this effort, why doesn't it work for me? Heard Pastor Fernandez talking about paying off a $7.7 million building. Somebody walked in looking raggedy. When he got through talking, I started looking for raggedy folks. When you hear what God did for other people and you're in a jam yourself, anything you can hear about it gets you excited because you want it to work for me. Is there anybody here that wants it to work for you? And the problem with church folk is that we're always obligated to act like stuff works whether it works or not. You got to act like, when I was young in my ministry, my mother, when she got a certain age, she started losing just a little bit of her sight, not blind, but just the normal stuff that happens to you with age. And I was a young pastor, and she said, Tommy, I said, yes, man. She said, pray for me. And I lay hands on her and pray for her. And when I got through praying for her, she couldn't see any better than she could before, but she didn't want to hurt my feelings. And so she wouldn't say she was healed because she didn't want to lie, but she would say, it's better. Mama couldn't see from here to there, but she loved me enough that she wanted me to have confidence in my ministry, so she'd blink her eyes and look forward and say, it's better. And some of you mamas have been looking at your life for a long time for the sake of whosoever is around you, and you've been saying, it's better. How you doing? I'm blessed in the Lord, thank God, in you. Do you not know that you can't really find anybody to tell how you're really doing? I don't pay people any attention when they ask me how I'm doing because I notice you walking while you asking. You don't really have time for me to tell you how I'm really doing. You want to know how I'm really doing? Come on, let's go to Starbucks. It's going to take me about 6 hours to unload the complications of how I'm really doing. Touch somebody and say it's complicated. You know, I am blessed on one side, but I'm cursed on the other. I'm growing over here, but I'm dwindling over there. Seems like every time I take a step forward, something bites me down over here. I can't explain to you in 2 seconds how I'm doing. If you don't sit down, shut up, because it's going to take me a while to unload how I'm doing. In fact, I'm not sure how I'm doing myself. Sometimes I'm just surviving, putting one foot in front of another. I don't know how I'm doing. I just know I'm still here. I am still here. And sometimes when you've been through hell, you trade success for survival. Are there any survivors in the house? Come on, I want my surviving daughters. Hit me up in here, make some noise if you survive. Touch your neighbor and say, I've been to hell and back, but I survived. I've been broke, busted, and disgusted, but I survived. I've been lied on and mistreated, but I survived. I've been through bad relationships, but I survived. I've been through bankruptcy, but I survived. I almost lost my mind, but I survived. I've been in the hospital, but I survived. My children broke my heart, but I survived. My man walked out on me, but I survived. That's why I'm tough. That's why I'm rough. That's why I don't take no mess. Come on. Survivors, make some noise. This man, he might have been sick, but he survived. He might have been impotent, but he survived. He might have been lame, but he survived. He might have been crippled, but he survived. He might have been broke, but he survived. He might have been lonely, but he survived. He might have been frustrated, but he survived. And before you look down your long curled up nose at me and act like I don't have no faith because I don't have what you have, at least acknowledge the fact that I survived. Let the survivors back me up tonight. No, I'm not successful, and I'm not rich, and I'm not famous, and I don't have a Porsche, and I don't have a big old house, and I'm renting from month to month, and I'm stretching to make ends meet, and I came here on credit, but at least I did. Nudge your neighbor and tell him I'm a survivor. That means if you don't speak to me, I can survive. That means that if you don't like me, I can survive. That means if you turn up your nose, I can survive. I have been trained in the discipline of survival. I may not be used to love. I may not be used to luxury, but I'm used to tough times. I am a survivor. And the man. Is there anybody up on that top tier that's a survivor? Make some noise up there, all the way at the top. All the way at the top. Let me hear some survivors make some noise up in this place. I'm a survivor. I know how to make dinner when I can't buy meat. I know how to make cornbread when I don't have milk. Oh, y'all ain't gonna say nothing to me. Y'all not gonna talk to me. I want some real people in here who know how to take little of nothing and make it work. Make it work. You had to work that thing. If it didn't work, it you'd have lost it. You had to work that thing. Touch your neighbor and tell him you got to work that thing. That's how I got to Atlanta. I had to work that thing. I had to plan it. I had to do overtime. I had to get off work. I had to talk my sister into keeping my nappy-headed kids. But I got here, and I'm not going to leave until I get everything that God. He had survived against all odds. Pastor Bishop, he survived without CVS. He survived without a doctor. He'd survived without a hospital, son. He'd survived without one aspirin. He'd survived without painkillers. He survived without any nurses. He had wounds in places that there was nobody there to comfort. He was hurting. Just like you might be hurting watching me on that internet. He was hurting, but he was here. He was trying to figure out, how do I get out there with the other people? He was stuck on a porch, one of the 5 porches at the pool of Bethesda. And I've been to where they say the pools was, and it's not too far from the commerce. So you can hear it, but you can't participate. You can see it, but you can't be it. And sometimes when you see other people win while you're just surviving, it's frustrating. Their success is torment. Why don't you move me way away where I cannot be reminded of what life could have been for me if things would have gone differently? I wanted to be so much more when I grew up. No little kid is born into the world and saying, I want to end up impotent. I want to end up lame. I want to end up suicidal. I want to end up depressed. I want to end up so confused that I don't know who I am. I want to end up so messed up that I let somebody that I know that's lesser than me trick me into being somehow lesser than them. I know. Isn't it amazing where life can take you? He survived for 38 years. I want to talk to you about rituals, because people who survive injuries love to be around rituals. There was a system set in place. Oh God, I wish I had time. For survivors. You know, a codependency that was set up for survivors. All the halt people got together. Because then if you're surrounded on a porch with halt people whose legs don't work, then your leg not working feels normal. When all of your associates are blind, then it's okay to be blind. When all of them are dragging their foot, then nobody's staring at you when you drag your foot. Sometimes the only way you can tell who you are is by looking at who you hang with. Touch somebody and say, every woman to her porch. It reminds me of church, because if you pastor a church as long as I have, I've pastored a church for almost 40 years, and I've pastored little churches and big churches and in between churches and churches I didn't even know how to categorize. But no matter what the size of the church, all the liars get together. and all the whoremongers become friends. All the loose women form a sisterhood. They have a section of the church that they all get together and sit in because their dysfunctions create comfort. Because you never have to change if everybody else is dragging too. So you don't want to be around anybody that's whole, because their wholeness would challenge your lameness. So you call them deep. Because it's easier to say that there's something wrong with whole than there is to confess, I'm lame. I'm lame. And I don't want to be lame. I don't want to be lame. 38 years! He had developed a ritual, a system. Tradition said that once a year, the angel would come down and trouble the water. And oh, sick people love rituals. They go to church with rituals. Brother Pastor, I'd like to make a nomination. We love rituals. Rituals give us comfort as to what to expect. We got routines and systems, and we wait till that one day, and then we have the Willing to Fry Chicken Committee's day and the Women's Day, and we all wear white. What are you doing out here in a blue dress? Don't you know that saved women wear white to communion? We love rituals. I used to think that only formal churches were ritualistic. But then I started traveling as a speaker, and I noticed that some folks' churches shout on cue. The whole church, it's almost like somebody hits a button and the whole church. Nobody's saying nothing. Nobody's getting better. Nobody's getting healed. Nobody's getting set free. But they just busy having church. They just ho. And it's a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior, like a bunch of trained seals or porpoises. When you hear a certain note, you dance, never noticing that you're still blind, still halt, still lame. And they evaluate your preaching based on their ritual. If you don't live up to the ritual, you're not a good speaker. I'm not going out to hear Jakes. Jakes can't preach, because you define good preaching according to the ritual. And everybody gathers around the porches of your ritual, and everybody pretends not to notice that we're not getting any better, because what we do is we say, well, it's better. Because we don't want to broach the subject that our rituals don't always work. Spin around 3 times and you're going to be healed. Hop on one foot and holler Jesus, and I declare you're going to get a breakthrough. It's not grace, it's cheap grace. It's not the blood of Jesus, it's Kool-Aid. It's all the stuff we do that suggests faith. But it's really rituals. For 38 years, Brother No Name had gone to the Church of Bethesda and substituted rituals for reformation. As long as you keep the ritual, you're in the clique. Because after all, there is a sociological need to belong. And I'm accepted here. This is where society